Hey, what's going on, crypto people? It is your boy, the Crypto Siege, with another day in the life, in the crazy life that is the digital asset space. What is going on, guys? Hope everyone is having an amazing afternoon. What a beautiful day out here on the East Coast. Hope it's nice and beautifully sunny where you are as well. I wanted to hop on here real quick, doing two things really quick. I'm testing out Zoom, and I'm also testing some work I'm doing with my phone as well. So hopefully this is working the way I wanted it to work. And let's talk a little bit about what's really going on. You know, we talk about all things XRP on this channel for sure, but we always have to pay attention to what's kind of going on geopolitically, because as we know, as we've been good students of the XRP manifesto from the awesome digital nomad investor, we know that the relationship between China and the US and that trade war is significant. And for me, I've always said that I believe that's just all drama. It's all kind of show. You know, it's just a big show kind of going on. I think they've already decided what they're going to do, how they're going to do it, how they're going to settle, come to an agreement with their debts, and how they're going to kind of work out this whole trade war thing. And I think that XRP is involved in that some way. But I heard something interesting today. I think a shout out to XRP Crypto Wolf, and talking a little bit about the fact that China made their digital currency, that we all know that the central bank is coming out with a currency, a digital currency. It may be backed by gold or pegged to gold, right? So we keep hearing this a lot about XRP and whether or not that's going to happen. And you guys have heard me say on this channel time and time again, there's got to be a reason why the major nations of the world, with the group, the fastest, the biggest, largest economies, are buying up and snatching up gold. It has to be a reason for that, right? So China and Russia, the U.S., especially China, can really amping up the amount of gold. Now, the U.S. overall has more gold, but at the rate of accumulation of the last 5 years, it's definitely been China, and Russia has been leading the pack. And we've always thought about it, especially in the XRP community. We've always thought about a digital asset being backed by gold, and it's looking like it's just pure speculation. This is just, we don't know, but it's looking that way. And I'm going to share a couple of articles with you, and I'm going to share the audio from a video that you guys are definitely going to enjoy. But I can tell you, it's interesting, to say the least, to at least talk about it. So here it is. It says China makes a bet against the U.S. dollar as world reserve currency, right? We know this has been the movement, not just by China, but by other people as well, other nations, major nations as well. We all know that this has kind of been the narrative, people wanting to walk away from the U.S. dollar as the world reserve currency. And guess what? The U.S. knows. Guess what? President Donald Trump knows that this is the move, and I'm pretty sure that he has resolved in his heart of hearts that this is an inevitable thing, walking away from the U.S. dollar as the world reserve currency. So what's his plan B? What's his ace in the hole? And I believe it has something to do with XRP, because we can't forget Executive Order 13772, where Ripple was mentioned. Ripple, the company, was mentioned in that article. So it's executive order in that order, Executive Order 13772. Ripple's mentioned in that executive order. We can't forget that. Signed by President Donald Trump and put together, I believe, by Craig Phillips. So let's look into a little bit of this article here. This is from Christopher Becchio, his CFA, at dailyfx.com. It says yuan. China is slowly trying to replace the U.S. dollar. U.S. dollar hegemony. Is it hegemony? Hegemony is at risk thanks to changes in the global economy and the long-term consequences of the U.S.-China trade war. China has been working to make the yuan a more central part of the global economy. By issuing debt denominated U.S. dollar, China is making a long-term bet that it will be cheaper to pay back its loans over time in the U.S. dollar. It believes the value of the U.S. dollar will fall. Issuing debt in a foreign currency isn't uncommon. Traders may recall that some famous investors rolled over their U.S. denominated debt into JPY denominated debt ahead of the Abenomics and the long decline in the value of the Japanese yen. And this looks like exactly what China is looking to do. It's the exact same play. So it seems to me that the smart people, the people in the know that the dollar and the value of the dollar is declining. And they also know that history has proven out that no fiat currency lasts forever. None, zero, none. And so it's ultimately, it appears as though it's just time for the US dollar, especially in terms of the world reserve currency, to just kind of go away, be replaced. Let's see. It was early October when officials from both China and the United States said that the progress had been made towards a phase one trade deal due to be signed before the end of the year. And yet with the Thanksgiving holiday descending upon markets, that kind of didn't happen already. Right? So that phase one thing, it did get signed, right? Didn't it? It did get signed. So forgive me, guys. And yet with the Thanksgiving Day holiday descending upon markets, there are no clear indications that a trade war, U.S.-China trade war phase one deal will be signed before the end of the year. And I think that they did, right? Because Mnuchin came out and he was all excited and talking about it already. So what's the date of this article? December 26th. Well, maybe not. I thought that Mnuchin was saying he was excited about the fact that they had come to an agreement, but they haven't actually signed the deal yet. Perhaps the most interesting news related to the U.S.-China war at the end of November was not about the phase one deal itself, but rather some financing moves China is making at the margins. On November 25th, Bloomberg News reported that the Chinese Ministry of Finance was readying a sovereign debt offering denominated in U.S. dollars to the tune of $6 billion. This debt would come in tenors of 3, 5, 10, and 20 years, 10 years of 3, 5, 10, and 20 years. Chinese borrowers are issuing USD denominated debt at a record pace with 195 billion recorded issuance so far in 2019. Bloomberg News noted that the Chinese USD denominated borrow market is just shy of 750 billion. This begs the question, why would China be issuing debt in a foreign currency, let alone the US dollar, in the middle of the US-China trade war? The simple answer, it's all about disassembling the Bretton Woods system that the US dollar enshrined as the world's reserve currency. This is all related to Bretton Woods. In July, the Bretton Woods system celebrated its 75th anniversary. We all remember that. Everybody on YouTube was talking about it, right? Over the past 25 years, the Bretton Woods system, by and large, enshrined the US dollar as the world's reserve currency. Having the power of the global unit of account, the US dollar, and thus the US economy, is afforded a leverage of privilege that no other country on the planet enjoys. You know, we've heard this phrase, a level playing field, for so long now. And I don't think it's just going to be just one thing. It's going to be several things that make up this level playing field. And this is probably the biggest one, and that is walking away from the US dollar as the world reserve currency and coming up with something very similar to each nation will have their own digital currency that they use amongst themselves. But we all know when it comes time for international trade, cross-border payments, there is going to be a need, okay, for a bridge asset. And we all know that is the greatest digital asset ever created, and that is XRP, right? So it's afforded a level of privilege that no other country on the planet enjoys. Level playing field, guys. This is where they're moving to, a level playing field. The foundation of this unique economic and financial privilege has been the fact that the U.S. economy has maintained at least 25% share of global GDP in the post-World War II era in the 75 years since Bretton Woods. Okay, so we know about that. So here's the thing that I really want you guys to kind of get. It's not difficult to foresee the inevitable shift of power over the coming decades. Bretton Woods institutions have failed to evolve in a manner that allows for greater cooperation among emerging market economies, allowing China to push its One Belt, One Road initiative as a standard for global cooperation. In doing so, China is attempting to aggregate enough share of global GDP to allow the Chinese yuan to take the mantle of the world reserve currency. The United States dollar and the U.S. economy would lose the unique economic and financial privilege it's enjoyed for so many years, and in turn, reduce demand for U.S. dollars, as it would no longer be the sole unit of account, if the unit of account at all, right, would very likely see the U.S. dollar decline in value. Now, I'm not going to go over the early days of the Abenomics, the Abenomics, maybe is what it's called. That's kind of the thing that happened with Japan, right? But what I do want to talk a little bit more about is what China is doing. Why issue debt denominated in a foreign currency? By issuing debt in a foreign currency, in the case of Abenomics, the Japanese yen, investors like Mark Cuban were able to reduce their debt payments over time. So this is a very well-known strategy, and this is exactly what China is looking to do. Just another sign that China is trying to end U.S. dollar hegemony. I think it's called hegemony. Much like investors issuing debt in the Japanese yen as Abenomics began to take root, China's decision to issue debt in U.S. dollars at a record pace this year is a sign that it is betting against the U.S. dollar. After all, if China is successful in displacing the Bretton Woods system with its own One Belt, One Road initiative, then the U.S. dollar will lose its place as the world reserve currency, plummeting in value along the way. It will be cheaper over time to pay back debt issued in U.S. dollars, as relatively speaking, the Chinese yuan strengthens over time. We all know about the renminbi, right, and how much that is being used. It is the single most currency that's being used the most, renminbi, which is why the United States-China trade war is not merely about how the trade relationship will be fixed in the short term. It is part of a long-term battle on China's part to displace the U.S. dollar as the world reserve currency, and China is betting they'll be successful. Okay? Interesting, right? So here's another article that I wanted to share with you guys, and I believe this is exactly the plan, what China is trying to do, but I do not believe that the U.S. is not aware of this attempt and what they're trying to do. And this is a game of chess, it's not checkers. And I'm convinced that President Donald Trump has another move. Okay, I'll get into Max Kaiser here in a second. But here's something here. It says that I think this is really, really interesting. Max Kaiser's China's cryptocurrency will be backed by gold. This is according to Max Kaiser, right? And I'm gonna let you guys listen to where he said this. Max Kaiser spilled some beans, about China's gold-backed cryptocurrency that could pose a serious threat to the U.S. dollar. I think they're going to call their digital currency DCEP. But it's interesting, right? So, according to commentator Max Kaiser, the U.S. is in danger of falling through a trap door that is set by China, whose gold buying spree recently surpassed 100 tons. In such a metaphoric way, Kaiser dropped a bombshell that China's much talked about digital asset is going to be pegged to gold during his most recent appearance on Kick Code. And I'm going to share that with you guys. China, the volume for you guys anyway. China is rolling out a cryptocurrency. A lot of the details have not been divulged. I can tell you that the digital asset that China's rolling out will be backed by gold. This is Max Kaiser. It's a two-pronged announcement. Number one, China's got 20,000 tons of gold, according to Max Kaiser. Number two, they're rolling out a crypto coin backed by gold, and the dollar is toast. This is according to Max Kaiser, right? China's crypto push. As reported by You Today, the People's Bank of China is set to become the first central bank to roll out its own digital currency called DCEP after working on the project for about 6 years. China's renowned interest in crypto comes after President Xi endorsed the blockchain technology, which underpins Bitcoin. His words allegedly pushed the BTC price to about 40% on October 25th, right? So as of now, very little is known about the so-called China coin. that has been adding more grease to the rumor mill for months. However, it is evident that the communist state is vying to become a standard, a standard-setting global superpower. In the parentheses, it says, for better or worse. Okay, so that is the thing. And again, how this relates to XRP is because we know that XRP has been talked about as a world reserve currency. We know that it's been talked about and in terms of being in the basket, in the SDR basket, working alongside the SDRs, perhaps becoming an ESDR. We all know that XRP is being looked at in different ways to help with this global economic crisis. And I think the thing that I really wanted to point out, if in fact China is looking to back their digital asset by gold, what's preventing the US from doing it? Backed by it, pegged by it, whatever phrase people want to use. Why would the United States not do it with their currency? So if it's not going to be XRP, is it going to be their own currency, right? So gold and digital assets are going to be working together alongside each other in some way, shape, or form, guys. I mean, that is truly, truly the bottom line. I'm going to let you guys listen to this. This is Max Kaiser on Kitco News.
Are still in precious metals, so still make the case for gold and silver here, despite those numbers.
Well, like I said, the repo market is flashing financial catastrophe. And the reason it's flashing this and markets are discounting mechanisms. They tend to be price sensitive to events that are not necessarily seen or known until they actually happen. And what's happening is that China is getting ready to open the trap door on the US dollar. Here's what I'm hearing, Daniela. China is about to announce that they, in fact, have not just under 2,000 tons of gold, but closer to 20,000 tons of gold on a very aggressive move to put the final nail into the US dollar.
What's your source for that?
As you know, we do our show that's broadcast globally, and we have a lot of contacts all over Asia and in Eurasia and naturally in Russia. And the feeling is that this is the time for China to now step out and put to rest this idea of censoring their global trade, with the US censoring SWIFT and other things that they do to curtail China in other countries, because China's making their big move, the big move for the 21st century. They're going to pull the trapdoor. And let me just add that they're also, as has been reported by the media, rolling out a cryptocurrency. A lot of the details have not been divulged. I can tell you that that cryptocurrency China's rolling out will be backed by gold. It's a two-prong announcement. Number one, China's got 20,000 tons of gold. Number two, we're rolling out a crypto coin backed by gold, and the dollar is toast. The dollar's going, like every other paper money in history, to zero. And
so there it is, guys. There it is. And we get it, right? This is Max Kaiser. He's a big time Bitcoin guy, like a big time Bitcoin guy, right? Got involved in Bitcoin 2010, 2011, sometime frame around there, right? So big time Bitcoin. He has tons and tons and tons of Bitcoin, but he also understands the value of gold, and so he has gold. He actually has more silver than he has gold, from what I understand. But it's just an interesting point, right? Do we know that China is going to back the digital asset by gold? We don't know that, right? And this is where the interview is, where he was being interviewed on Kitco News. But we don't know that for sure. But we can't discount it, right? As Brad Kimes like to say, we can't take it off the table, right? And so this is the thing that I think we need to pay attention to, because all of these things still, it keeps XRP in the hearts and minds and souls of other people. So we just can't totally disregard that. But in addition to that, I wanted to share something with you guys that I think is pretty significant. But I'm not going to do it on this one. I'll share it another time. So guys, that's the news, right? It's a geopolitical front, but it does involve digital assets, and I think it's important that we understand that and that we get that in XRP, right? Pay attention, keep the XRP radar antennas up, Understand that the XRP Manifesto 4.0 is looking more and more like a real thing. I think it's very, very interesting that it's coming out in mainstream media that China's digital asset could possibly be backed by gold. And I think if China, a huge, huge major economy, would do that, I think that other major economies would look to do the same thing. We got to think, we got to believe, it's got to be a reason why these major nations like China, Russia, the US are stockpiling gold. There's got to be some reason for that. So guys, listen, I'm going to wrap this video up like I do all videos, and remind you that old money doesn't want you to win. They don't want us to win. They would rather us remain a cog in their perpetual wheel of trading our time for dollars. They don't want us to play in the same playground that they play in, where we allow our money to work for us. This is our chance to win, guys. The digital asset space is our chance to win. We are in the midst of the greatest transfer of wealth in the history of man. Are you participating, or are you standing on the sidelines? Here's what I do know, that the battle for you has already been fought, and the victory is yours. Go get it. I'll talk to you soon, guys. See ya.